Hello and welcome to Chaos and Curiosities. It's gonna be a night. My brain is buffering. Welcome to Rainbows and Razor Blades Productions, where chaos reigns in all of our content. Tonight for Chaos Curiosities, I'm going to be talking party composition as requested by the fantastic Steve, and how important it is to me as a DM or even as a player, uh, if it matters uh, about the composition of the party, or if it's more of a yes, I did just get a slow clap on Zoom for that entrance. But party composition, whether it be D&D or other TTRPGs, I'm going to start off on the top. I don't think it matters that much, especially with a lot of the newer systems. I do like that a lot of newer systems are like going away from having a class and like that's what you learn in, or even like just with the multi-classing and how you can't quite get things leveled as much. Instead doing things where you get abilities or you get skills. It's more like points are put into places or based on how you play. That's how your character goes. But for things like Dungeons and Dragons, where party or having a class is what you're there for, party composition can vary. And as a DM, I'm fine with whatever people want to play to have. It's just all about scaling encounters for how they're going to play it. I say too many ums and ahs, especially when I'm talking to myself. So, first off, in my party composition dissertation that I will be writing for you this evening, it's all about having fun, no matter how that looks at your table. Always remember that first and foremost. We actually have in one of the games coming up, there is some, or in the not the game I'm running, but the game I'm playing in, Misguided Magic, it was going to be two clerics in the party, and like how we were going about it was going to be different. And then my character went interesting ways, and I'm super excited for how those interesting ways went. Yes, Brendan, you can definitely see the gears struggling to turn. It's a night. I probably should have grabbed an energy drink instead of two versions of water, but here we are. But if you look at any table, whether it's streamed, home game, most of the time the party is going to talk with each other and be like, so I'm gonna play this, and then another person is, over here playing that, and then the others fill in where they need to. Like with the Artena game, when we did session 0, we had a couple of people that were set on how their characters were going to be, a couple others that were kind of on the fence about a couple things with their character class, and then I had the last two came in with a couple of options. Oh, hey, haha, I have an energy drink now. I'm like, who the hell is knocking on my door? It's just my producer. All right, let's see if this helps the brain gears go burr. uh but so the others came in with a couple of different options of what they were thinking about playing, and they were happy to play any of them because, like me, they're people that create I'm getting distracted by chat now. um like me, who create a lot of characters just, for funsies. And so we have a lot to draw on when we're like, all right, let's round out a party. Other times, it's fun to play parties where you're all one class and just be chaotic with it. Good chaotic fun. Yeah, brain buffering. Give me a minute. Ow, 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 ow. I also hurt my knee and my hip today at the gym, so I'm also going to be a little whiny bitch midnight. Let's look at this. Yes, Windows startup sequence. It's the dial-up tone in my head right now from back when internet was on the phone. I think more important than class composition. Yes, I'm trying to use AOL to run my brain tonight. So stick with me. It's going to be interesting, at least, even if I don't actually impart much. But what I do think that is important in a party is if you don't have a healer, then as a DM, it is your job to make sure they either run into healers and have some NPC help, or you make potions more affordable. Because it's not going to be any fun for anybody at the table if they keep dying and have nothing to help them with that. Yes, I need an upgrade. I need an upgrade of more energy. Because in any setup, you don't necessarily even need a tank. If you have enough DPS that can mitigate who takes how much damage, or if you have a couple tanks and you don't have as many DPS, the tanks usually can still do enough damage that it's almost inconsequential. You might still need to, even mid-fight, scale your bad guys or your monsters to make sure that you're not going to either completely demolish them or doing something that might be too easy based on what kind of damage the party can do. But healing is almost always important. And as in MMORPGs, be nice to your healers. They can withhold that healing. I still really like the idea of a healer that is modeled after American healthcare, where it's all like, well, I could heal you, but it's going to cost you this much because you don't have my deity's insurance. I've played with the idea of having something like that come into play in a game if needed. So, keep an eye out for possible evil healer entities. Kat is not gonna play her motherfucking day job, and I agree with that. I still think it's entertaining. I didn't say it was gonna be a good character. But the good thing, a lot of the TTRPGs that are popular or are newer, is even if they do have classes, there's multiple ways you can play a healer. You can do it like in D&D, for example, you've got druid, you've got cleric, you've got bard, you've even got the divine soul sorcerer, one that can't stand the blood. Oh, they would faint in the middle of a fight and be useless. Yes, celestial warlock. So they did get to the point where they balanced out, where you can still play the class you want and still have at least that little bit of healing as a possibility. So, I I enjoy warlocks. And even not celestial warlock. I think that I've got at least, I think there's one other that I've played as warlock where it's got healing as an option. Um paladins can also heal a little bit, and that's helpful. Do do do. All right, that's actually not being helpful, so I'm going to stop looking at it. I know I have a lot to say on this subject, and my brain doesn't want to. So you can still have pally healers, any of them have lay on hands. So, that's always a thing. And too bad for the one you're trying to heal, you're about to throw up your lunch. You can still play a class you love and have at least a little healing so that multiple people can cover that. And it's always good to have, a little bit of healing spread out anyways. Oh, I know that the Redemption Oath has some healing spells and stuff like that, but there's other paladins that can do cure wounds. I'm pretty sure I've seen at least one other. It could be homebrew though. I have been looking at a lot of homebrew lately, so things I say don't necessarily mean rules as written for them. But some of the funnest games that I've played: Oops All Bards, Oops All Warlocks, Oops All Barbarians. You can always make it work as a DM. Wow, I looked at barbarians and I was sure I spelt it incorrectly. Any of them you can have. Not that paladins got it normally. They had the options for some healing spells outside of the lay on hands, but I wasn't 100. Thank you for that. There is a lot of written words in Dungeons and Dragons, and I have not read them all, and I probably will never read them all. So I rely on search engines, and that is the Google age. But you can do any party as all of one class or mix it a little bit. To have all your bases covered and still make it work. But again, as the DM, it's your job to make sure that you have things in your world that cater to the type of party that your players have created. I played in a game where there wasn't a single one of us that had a lick of healing. And so it was potions were plentiful and cheaper than usual because she decided that healers weren't going to be a thing in the game if we didn't have any in our party. And so it made sense. And you can do little things like that to bring the party back around. Or if you've got an entire party of casters and they're all squishy and maybe have a little healing, but they're not going to be able to take a lot of hits or any very big hits, you change it up and you homebrew some stuff for them, or even just give some magical items instead of withholding those, because so many DMs are so stingy with magical items. Like, even if you just have one magical item for something, it can change the entire game, but in a good way. Too many DMs see them as game breaking, which is absurd considering there's literally hundreds of magical items and hardly any of them ever get used. Just finished a campaign with a fighter, rogue, sorcerer, and a druid. Druid got real good at healing. Yeah. And a lot of times there'll be people are like, oh, we don't have any healers. This is gonna be rough. And so then when they level up, they will take a level in something that can do healing. And then even just a couple of deck of many things, so much fun. And I may actually throw that at my Arteta party eventually and see the chaos that ensues. But we shall see. But a lot of party composition is also the party knowing their place in the party and acting accordingly, because there's some players that are like, oh, this class sounds really cool, but they never played it before. They don't brain buffering, just like my screen, because apparently Twitch is like, we're gonna be real laggy right now. Oh, did I freeze? Oh no. Oh, there we go. I looked over and it's just me with a weird face. Oh, it's gonna keep freezing on me. Great. I love this for me. It's gonna be an interesting night. uh but a lot of people want to play a class that they've never played before, haven't seen a lot about, especially with new players. And those ones I try to look more into and have a better feel for what they can and can't do, so that I can jump in and be like, oh, so you can also do this, and help them through it. D&D Beyond is a lifesaver for having character sheets to help players out if they are unsure about their character. And especially when we did our home games, there was a couple people that hadn't played often enough, didn't know their abilities well enough. And so, I'd be on there and I'm all like, oh, so, you can also do this on your turn. And, and another thing that you can do to balance out party composition is if you do only have somebody that maybe has one healing spell or something like that, you do some homebrew rules and you switch things up a little bit and say a healing word, it can be a bonus action, but then they can also do any other spell as their action, instead of having it be so tight on what they can and can't do. As a cleric, there's a lot of times I'm like, oh, I really want to do damage, but I also need to heal my party. And so it's something that you've got to look into and make sure that as a player or as a DM, that the healers are still able to do other things. Even if it's, down to the point where, oh, hey, I'm going to roll this dice to see what other person in the party this bad guy's going to attack, instead of the person that's almost dead. To either give a chance for brain buffering again. I apologize. We will return after this energy drink message. I don't even remember where I was going with that tangent. It's going to be a word salad night. Oh, sometimes, you've got to mix things up so that the healers can do some damage and can get out there and have some fun too. I guess I could actually, continue to make notes. Any party of all one class is fun. Let your players have fun. Oh no, I looked over at chat at the wrong time. I don't want to know about salads being tossed. Extensive menus for food and drink. Oh, my it's gonna be a night, like I said. And every single point I'm gonna make tonight in a boiled down to let your party have fun. Too many DMs think that you have to play it by the book and railroad players, not characters, players into characters they may not want to play. Now, me personally, I love playing a cleric. Clerics are so much fun, especially if you've got a DM that uh, really utilizes the god and messes with you with it. That's also my love of warlocks, which is going to be real interesting since I'm playing a cleric warlock on the Tuesday game coming up. I'm super excited for it. It's going to get crazy. It's going to be weird, just how I like it. Yeah, I really think that I'm going to run out of things to say about this. Yeah, session 0 should be for the party to decide what they play, not the GM to determine. There's some GMs that I've actually had a GM before that was like, all right, these are the classes that I want to have in the party, and so I need you to be within these guidelines. That's no fun. Let me make the character that I want to play. Yes, let me make a player that's going to play my character. That would be interesting. So it all boils down to, I don't think party composition is as big of a deal as a lot of GMs make it out to be. I actually, one of the most fun games some of the most fun games that I've ever played one of them was a home game that somebody ran. And we didn't tell anybody else in the party what classes we were playing, and so we didn't like build party composition. Welcome to the inside of my brain where everything's a train wreck. Usually I have notes prepared beforehand, but I didn't even know what I was going to talk about until earlier today when Steve's like, hey, let's talk about this. Yeah, party composition was a big deal in some of the older systems, and I think that that's where a lot of the DMs got stuck in it. But even in those, you could work around it. Homebrew has always been a thing for D&D. I don't care how many people out there are all like, well, it used to be you could only play. I am excited for the all horny warlocks soon. But the older systems, like I said, homebrew has always been a thing. You can work your way around the rules as written to make up for the lack in a party. It's not that hard to do. Now, to be fair, I didn't run anything ever in the older D&D systems. The first time I DM'd was just before the pandemic, so maybe 2018 was the first time I DM'd. And then even before we started this channel, I maybe DM'd 10 to 15 games tops. So, DMing is new to me, and I feel like I'm growing leaps and bounds by talking to other DMs in the community. I have seen Horlocks that aren't. We are now the party of Horlocks. Oh my goodness. Yes, fall 2018 into 2019 for the first or no, Artena wasn't even the first one that I DM'd in, because all Horlocks, yes. I tried out a different homebrew world completely, and like the things that I did with it just weren't working for me. So I think we only did like maybe 2 or 3 sessions in that, and then I moved on to Artena. But even with that, I didn't do a whole lot of in the actual campaign games because it eventually fell apart, which was sad. But people have lives, and the pandemic hit, and it was a bitch. But there was one shots and there was other things that got me into it, and it's always going to be a learning curve. But even as a new DM, I know that in any game, You can balance out a party. Yes. If you aren't learning growing, the games will stagnate and your players might not stay, but they might stay, but they won't be having as much fun, even if they don't tell you. Communication is key, especially in the streaming realm with this. uh you've got to make sure that your players are having fun, that your players are that you're communicating. If you see one of your players acting differently, uh, make sure that you reach out to them and be like, hey, is this something that happened in the game? Is it something personal that's happening? Just like any friendship, any sort of relationship in any way, shape, or form, communication is key. So you want to learn and grow, and you want to up your game, which will keep your players interested. And we've come to fuck it or kill it. I actually, one of my favorite songs to listen to over the last few days has been a song called Kiss or Kill. And it's wonderful. Um, so you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to keep things interesting. And part of that is learning how to properly balance out a party if they didn't balance out with the party composition. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna just hammer that point home that homebrew is fantastic. uh, you don't have to play rules as written. You don't have to follow every single little piece. You can change monsters on the fly, especially when you have veteran players, veteran DMs, especially in your games. Change shit up, make sure that you're doing things that they don't expect, because metagaming is still going to happen. And you will get messages behind the scenes of did you know that this can't do that? And then you got to be like, well, in my world it can. uh yes, NPCs can also round out a crew, if especially if you're doing like a dungeon crawl where you know that they're going to need a healer or even an extra healer. Throw in an extra pally, maybe a cleric if they don't have a dedicated healer. Um, you can have recurring NPCs that hang out. Uh, and thus I spoke, the DM motto. Uh, Don saying it in other systems, you don't change as much because their balance is tighter. And, you know, it's going to be different. D&D is my main one. I'm learning Cyberpunk, and party composition in Cyberpunk, like, yeah, it's still helpful to have it rounded out and to have things like a med tech and a tech that are at least handy. Um, but again, that I'm homebrewing a lot and not playing rules as written on the fly. And people are going to get on me about it. And I don't care, because I just want people to have fun playing my game. And that is my main goal. uh, but the metagaming thing is, you know, it can happen in any kind of game. Cyberpunk is fun for me on that one because I haven't thrown like just normal, hey, this is what we have for you stat blocks at them. It's been mostly like NPCs that I've actually statted out and all of that. Oh, yeah, I haven't played Pathfinder ever. I've heard great things about Pathfinder. Um, but I do know that it's something that's more that's a little less getting away from rules as written. And I will be the first to admit that I'm a little bit of a sloppy DM that wings shit on the fly. So yeah, the rules on monster creation and all that, I'm actually for 5e got a couple of creatures that are going to be completely homebrewed that I'm going to stat up soon, and I'm super excited for them. uh But I also noticed that I don't throw as many monsters at my people or as many bad guys at my people as I usually do, or as I would do in home games. Because in home games, it's not even necessarily that they were more into the combat. It's that I was a new DM. Most of them like would kind of RP, but it would be more out of character conversation kind of stuff. Because that's how a lot of people like to play, and it is perfectly fine, and we can still work with that. But it was just easier as a new DM to just keep bad guys and monsters and be like, here, fight this. But one of the biggest things I've learned since getting into streaming is how to set up the narration to better let your party RP. And so for me personally, it's a little less uh necessary to have a fully balanced party composition for it, because I will throw in NPCs to help. I will, balance stuff out if needed. I'm also the person that will completely change an HP in the middle of a battle if it's too easy or too hard, and change up how many attacks they're taking. Uh, because I'm not great, even if I do the whole encounter calculators, where it's all like, okay, yes, this is how this is going to be, this will be a deadly encounter, and then they kill a thing within 5 minutes. uh yes, you need to hit the beats in streaming, because people are going to watch your stream for the story, and yeah, combat is part of that story, but they want the actual backstory. They want to learn about the characters. They want to know the motivations behind why things are happening. uh so there's a lot of different ways in the systems that I've personally played in to make things work if the party wants to go specific directions that don't quite work with uh how a normal party would be able to work. So it's always fun to mess around with different party compositions too. A lot of the reasons I did one shots, both on the channel and then when I was first learning to DM, is to learn how to have a different party composition in different things, and how it will affect the game. The great thing with the long-term campaigns running now is I know how the party is composed and how where strengths and stuff lie. And I've gotten better, and I've learned about how to utilize different people in the party. And especially with Cyberpunk, it's one of those things where uh not every member is going to be as helpful in every situation. And so then you make sure that you have situations where that party member is going to be extremely helpful, and so they get their moment to shine. Um, and not just throwing in things that are specific to a couple of people and then they become like main characters and the rest are just ancillary, and that's no fun for anybody. Oh, fog cloud. Skag's go-to move. Yes, we will allow bastard. Dear uh dear chat terms. Bastard is okay. Answer is always fireball. I didn't ask how big the room was. I asked if I could cast fireball. So you can work around anything. Uh like I was saying with Cyberpunk. Um you're going to be in areas where an exec is extremely useful and it's going to do their thing, but the solo has almost nothing to do because you're trying to infiltrate without being noticed. But then, like in the Cyberpunk game we're playing, then they go down into a prison level and suddenly the solo is going to be uh your best person to have at the forefront. If you've got combat, you're going to want to have the med tech and the tech prepared. It's also about balancing encounters to utilize each person in the party, no matter what the party composition is. So say you're playing a Dungeons and Dragons game and you've got a whole bunch of barbarians. They want to get there and they want to fight shit, but they're not going to have anybody that can heal them. So you're going to have to throw things at them that are willing to run away or be like, hey, you're not enough to bother with, kind of thing, and walk away from the encounter. Because and sometimes it's, more fun to not have them kill all of the bad guys, whether they need information or whether those NPCs are going to be important later on. The interactions with Lobo and Obscura in the Cyberpunk game are great. But yeah, you can definitely have combat medics where they can do some first aid in the field and stabilize. Talk to one of your barbarian players and be like, so how about we have something in your backstory where because also I have a feat fetish. I love playing with feats. If I've got an attribute raise, I never go with the attributes and I take a feat. I actually got the shirt that says feat fetch on it. That's how much I love feats. So I will offer up at the beginning of the game, if say there's not a healer, I'll be like, so if we gave you the first aid feat, then you can still help and you can still at least stabilize people. And it's something that's going to be useful and something that it's you can work with. You always just want to find something that you can work with. And if I knew that was going to go on a feat rampage in the chat, and I didn't care. Give me some Sasquatch feet. No. So it all boils down to, I'm probably going to cut it a little short tonight because brain goes burr. So heads up, Cat, about maybe 15 minutes until I start doing outros. Not that Sasquatch. No, Brendan, my brain is not going burr. It's stunted. And it's a thing that you'll learn as a DM. Well, if you don't learn it as a DM or a GM, then you're probably not going to have a very good time yourself, let alone your players. It is stuck on Horlock setting. I mean, when isn't it stuck on Horlock setting? So learn what works with your party specifically and balance for that. If it's going to be a one shot, just make sure that you have things ready, unless you warn your party that, hey, you don't have any healers. It's entirely possible I'm going to TPK you. If you all go in knowing that that's a possibility, it's fine. Especially in a one shot. Sometimes that makes it more fun, knowing that shit's gonna be so bad that you could all die a horrible fiery death, and it's wonderful. So learn the mechanics that will work for what you're doing. Or I mean, you should probably learn all the mechanics anyway. I attempt to, but oh my god, why are there so many words that it doesn't want us to use? I swear I have it on low settings for these words, but at least I can allow it. Yeah, sometimes if you do have a party that is well balanced, resting is for cowards. Make sure that you have things that keep going, so they have like 2 back-to-back fights before they can take a long rest. You can push them to the point that things are looking bleak, and then, give them that respite to heal up once it does get to those dire straits. Sleep is for the weak, and I'm weak. I agree with that. Um, I have no idea what Castle Panic is, but I will talk to you about that later because I am I am intrigued now. Oh yeah, sorcerers and warlocks are always going to end up down to cantrips. So it's always important to make sure you choose Eldritch Blast as a warlock and cantrips that do damage. um uh okay, now I'm picturing that Castle Panic is like fire drills at stoplights, and everybody jumps out of the car and plays musical seats and then jumps back in just as it's turning green, and who knows who's driving. um so there's a lot of ways that you can work around however the party has set themselves up. um But again, I'm going to reiterate the first point that is every point. It's all about having fun. This is a game. This isn't, so even if you're streaming, even if you're doing trying to do as professional of a thing as possible, uh everybody needs to have fun or they're not going to want to play. So if they do create a party that is unbalanced, balance it for them however you can. Let them play the characters they want to play, and figure out down the road if you need to change. This is not a game. This is Sparta. So you want to make sure that you throw in things that can help them, that can make it, still a fun thing to play. One of my favorite things about my Saturday night game with DK DMing is there are absolutely things that she throws at us that we cannot fight. We might do better than we thought we would, but it's, still one of those things where she's pushing us to realize that we need to approach it from a different way than just fighting. And that's another way that you can work with a party, and however it's balanced, is to set them up for things where it does look bleak. It does look like a TPK is going to happen. And then give them an out. Let them know that there is always another way rather than just fighting. But that is my talk on party composition, my dissertation, if you will, on party. Thanks for coming out and hanging and chatting with us. I have been Kristen, your Chaos Goblin. And my Chaos Goblin brain does not go burr tonight. We do have a lot of exciting stuff coming up on the channel. Tomorrow night, we have At the Threshold with our DM Chad, North Shore DM, in the chat. I actually have commands now for all of the games so that you can actually see stuff. Yes, there is also the Chad command. Then Friday night, we have, if I can remember my commands, Somnum Exteri, the cyberpunk the cyberpunk campaign that I mentioned earlier. And there will be chumming the water this Friday, and it's going to be fantastic, and I am excited for that. Then next Monday, our Tenna will be back, the 5e homebrew that I run, because I love my brain and was all like, let's do two long-term campaigns in two wildly different systems and start them at the same time. But it's been a blast. It's been fun. I'm excited. Then Watercolor Wizardry, I believe, is still going to be at 1 p.m. next week. For the last character, huh? Oh. Cats make hand gestures at me and I'm confused. Love, you mean it. um and then on Tuesday as well, the first episode of Misguided Magic will be on. It's going to be a one shot with my character Scoria and Abby's character Beetlebug, who is a hairless Sphinx tabaxi and a gremlin, and I love her. We've actually wound our backstory together, and so it's going to be the two of us getting down to where everything starts. And then the following week will be the one shot with Julian, played by Beth. I believe Han is the name that Kristen went with, because there's going to be a Kristen and a Chris. So I will be going by Chris more often in places, except for where Kat is concerned, because she does not call me Chris. Oh, chat is on fire tonight. And then Allison's character, the thirst trap orc Brasco, they will have their one shot for leading up to when we're going to start the week after that with us all together for the actual episode 1. And I'm super excited for this. All of our games, even though we have 3 5e games going on the channel, all of them are wildly different. It's fantastic. We also have our chaos games, and apparently that is not the... Oh wait, no, it was just laggy. Okay. Where next week we actually are gonna have friend Dawn on to come on and chat with us and talk just fun TTRPG stuff. The week after that, we'll be back to Curiosities. I promise I will actually come up with a topic to talk about, and be prepared, because this was not that week. But it's still been fun. It's still been fabulous. And thank you so much, everybody, coming out to hang out with me. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye.